India and the world. Now students, see, after independence means approximately 7-8 decades we pass out. So in these 7-8 decades means India have gained too much socio-economic significances in the world. So we can say, or we can say too, because of the maritime location of India, which is providing links to its neighbor regions, or we can say to the rest of the world through, we can say, sea, or through, we can say, ocean body. Now see, means through this sea or ocean body we are doing international trade, we are exchanging our culture, we are doing socio-economic practices between the neighbor countries and the rest of the world. And see, earlier in our ancient time period, we were having basically the land routes because Indians were afraid through ocean routes. So we had developed the land routes like Silk Route, you can take an example. So through those Silk Route, we can say through those land routes, we were just exchanging, we were doing at that time, we were trading, we were doing the trade like barter system. We were exchanging commodities to commodities earlier, but nowadays we can say money have eliminated the barter system, and now we are exchanging our commodities, now we are exchanging our culture, we are exchanging our technology. Mostly we can say 90% of international trade of the country is basically done through water routes, or we can say through ocean routes. So ocean routes, they are playing very important role. But see, in ocean routes, one important canal of the world have played too much important role to increase the trade between European countries and Asian countries through, we can say, Africa, or we can say some other countries. So that basically that role is played by a canal. Now we all know that canal is basically the inland way system. So one important canal have played very important role, who have reduced the distance between the international countries, that is approximately 7,000 kilometers, and the name of that canal is Suez Canal. Suez Canal is very important. It is playing very important role for the international trade of the country. Now some of the features we are having related to Suez Canal. Students, Suez Canal was basically constructed by Egypt. So we can say that direct and indirect control on the Suez Canal, that is of Egypt, and this canal is basically constructed in 1869. Means the construction have started in 1859, but from 1869 this canal is in operation, right? So it have reduced the distance between the countries, that is 7,000 kilometers, and Suez Canal is basically linking two important seas, that we can say Mediterranean Sea and Red Sea. Means it is basically linking two seas, Mediterranean Sea and Red Sea. So Suez Canal is basically having two important ports, or we can say starting point and ending point, that we can say from Port Said to Port Suez. So Suez Canal is very important canal, who have reduced the distance between European countries and Asian countries. Due to that, the trade have increased between India and the world also, and India is having vast coastline also. Vast coastline means we can say that India, as earlier I told you, that total land boundary of India is 15,200 kilometers. Right. Now we are talking about the coastline of the country. So coastline of the country, that is basically 7,516.6 kilometers. Right, 7,516.6 kilometers. It is including islands. We can say including islands. Now, your question may arise in your mind that if we exclude the island, what is the coastline of India? So we can say that, then we can say 6,100 kilometers. It is excluding islands. So this is basically, we can say, the coastline of the country. Right. Now one question may arise in your mind that from north to south, what is the distance of the country? So from north to south distance of the country is 3214 kilometers, and from east to west distance, that we can say 2933 kilometers. So this is basically, this mainly comes under the size of the country. So these questions basically arises in the mind. That's why I told you that the main coastline of India, including islands, that is 7,516.6 kilometers. If we exclude the island, then we can say 6,100 kilometers. Right. So this already we have discussed. The next point that we have to discuss in this point, we have already discussed the Suez Canal and all. Now we are having India and neighbor countries. Now students, see, so many neighbor countries we are having. Now so many landlocked countries we are having. Landlocked countries हम उनको बोलते हैं जहाँ पर हम आप कह सकते हो कि land part से land part touch में. These countries are basically called landlocked countries. So in the means we can say in the northwestern part we are having Pakistan, then we are having Afghanistan, right? Then we can say in means we can say in eastern side we are having, so means China we are having, or we can say Tibetan Plateau region, right? Then Nepal, Bhutan and Myanmar, Bangladesh, and two island neighbor countries we are having. Island neighbor countries means Maldives and Sri Lanka. So with we can say the maximum boundary we are basically sharing with Bangladesh, that is 4096 kilometers. A huge land boundary we are basically sharing with Bangladesh, that is 4096 kilometers. And we can say with Pakistan we are sharing 3323 kilometers, which basically we can say that position third number. And on the second number we are sharing the land boundary with China, that is 3488 kilometers. And with Nepal we are sharing 1751 kilometers. With Bhutan we are sharing 699 kilometers land boundary. And the lowest boundary we are sharing with Afghanistan, that is 106 kilometers. And two island countries we are having of India, means neighbor countries, that we can say Sri Lanka and Maldives. So in the we can say southeastern side we are having Sri Lanka, and in the southwestern side we are having Maldives near Lakshadweep. So these are two island neighbor countries of India. So 7 landlocked countries we are having of India, and 2 we can say island neighbor countries of India we are having. So we can say that here means in this region we are having, we can say Maldives, here Sri Lanka we are having, Pakistan, Afghanistan, here China, then Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh and Myanmar. So these 7 countries, they are basically landlocked countries, right? हिंदी में इसको हम बोलते हैं स्थलबद्ध, मीन्स लैंड पार्ट से लैंड पार्ट टच में है. जब लैंड पार्ट से लैंड पार्ट टच में है, सो इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट वी कैन इजीली डू trading activities through land routes, or we can say we can easily do trading activities through roadways or railways, and even we can easily establish pipelines with these countries. So we can say that we can increase our trade with these countries easily. So to increase our trade we have to maintain the good relation between these neighbor countries, right? So India and neighbor countries, they are very important. Now see students, we have covered almost we can say that almost all the points of the chapter. But before concluding this chapter, I want to tell you some important we can say points, or some important we can say the terminologies of the chapter, because they are very important to understand. Then only we will be able to understand the things. So now see, Sri Lanka, we used to call that Sri Lanka is separated from India by a narrow channel of sea, or we can say by a narrow channel of water, that is we used to call Palk Strait, and Gulf of Mannar we used to call, right? And see, what is the difference between Gulf, or we can say what is Gulf, what is bay, what is strait, what is island, what is peninsula, right? What is isthmus? So to understand these terms is very important, right? So to understand these terms, we can easily understand these terms. Like first we used to take Gulf. Now what is Gulf? Gulf, students, we used to call Gulf, that we can say Gulf is basically that area who is having, means Gulf is basically an water body, right? Gulf is basically an water body, or we can say it is a large water body, but its mouth is very small. So we can say that Gulf we can analyze in this manner, we can understand the Gulf in this manner. Now see, here we are having land part, here also we are having land part, here also we are having land part. Now this is water body. It is in large catchment area, right? But the mouth is very small. Small mouth we can say. So Gulf is that area which is basically the result of erosional activities, or we can say it can take any shape, like an oval, it can take any shape. But the Gulf is basically having large catchment area, means the water reservoir area is very large, but the mouth of the Gulf is very small. Here we can analyze, means here you can see, means this is basically the Indian Ocean. Now Indian Ocean is a large water body, but it is having a small mouth here, right? So Gulf of Mannar and Palk Strait, they basically separate Sri Lanka from India. Now question may arising in your mind that what is strait or what is bay? So bay you can call, bay is basically the opposite of Gulf, means here we are having large catchment area, but bay is having small catchment area as compared to Gulf, but the mouth of bay is large. You can see here we are having Bay of Bengal. Now see, it is basically the land boundary we are having in three sides, but the mouth is very large. So we can say bay, you can define that a small catchment area we are having, right? But the mouth is broad mouth it is having, and in all parts we are having the land, means land which is basically surrounded by the land body and it is water body. So you can analyze from here. So we can say this is basically the water body, right? But the mouth is very broad and it is basically surrounded by the land body. So this is basically we used to call bay. So you can easily define the difference between the bay and Gulf. The next one that we can understand, that is strait and isthmus. Now what is strait and isthmus? We can now strait, we can say that when two big water bodies, they are separated by a narrow channel of water, that is basically called strait. Means on two sides we are having land part and we are having one narrow channel of water which is basically separating two big water bodies. Now you can see here Sri Lanka is separated by Palk Strait. So we can say that Palk Strait is basically the narrow channel of water who is separating Bay of Bengal and Indian Ocean. So we can say that strait is basically a narrow channel which separates two land parts, by a narrow channel, that is basically called strait. So Palk Strait separates Sri Lanka from India. Next question may arise in your mind that what is isthmus? So isthmus is just opposite to strait. So isthmus, we are not having any kind of isthmus in India, but we can just understand that what is isthmus. So isthmus is just opposite, means two big we can say that two big water bodies when they are separated by narrow channel of land part, that we used to call isthmus. Right. Now two important terms are also there, island and peninsula. Now what is island? Island is basically, we can say, the landmass which is covered by water body from all sides, that is basically called island. Then peninsula is basically, we can take an example of India, means this is basically the peninsular India. So peninsula means, we can say that any landmass which is covered by water body from its three sides, like Indian peninsula is covered by water body from its three sides. Right. So here we are having Arabian Sea, here we are having Bay of Bengal, and in the lower part we are having Indian Ocean. So this is basically the peninsular India, and we used to call the peninsular India, basically it is covered by water body from all its three sides, so it is called peninsula. Now one last point from this chapter, that is, what is Indian subcontinent? Now see, according to NCERT, the Indian subcontinent basically comprises 5 countries, that is Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, India and Bangladesh. So these are important 5 countries which comes under Indian subcontinent. Now why we are calling Indian subcontinent and why we are including these 5 countries into Indian subcontinent? Because the features, or we can say that geographical features, they are almost similar in these countries. That's why we used to call Indian subcontinent. Okay, Indian subcontinent is basically includes 5 countries of Asia, means Indian subcontinent include Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh and India. Right. So these are important 5 countries which are basically included in Indian subcontinent according to NCERT. But if you will search somewhere, then you will find 2 more countries in Indian subcontinent, that is Sri Lanka and Maldives. So students, we have to move according to NCERT only. So Indian subcontinent includes 5 important countries because they all countries are having similar geographical features. Now here we have just concluded the chapter. Now some important questions we have to discuss from this chapter.